Okay, let's get started. I apologize for being a bit late getting started. I'm going to blame the elevators in Evans Hall, which were extremely slow, and it happens that I can corroborate that because there was a student riding the elevator or attempting to ride the elevator with me. Who is that? Where is that? Yes, it's because of the elevator, right? We waited a solid 4 minutes and then we came down the steps. And the elevator arrived as we were walking through the doors of the steps, and we beat it anyway. Good. So problem set 4 has been posted. 2 long problems. The first one you should be able to get started on right away, and for sure by the end of this class, and the second one will require some material from next week. It's due 2 weeks from today, as usual. Okay, so we're continuing to talk about present bias preferences. Some of us, of course, are talking about other things. Some of the people in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 row back are still chatting. One of whom is my friend Priyanka. Oh! Okay, good. Let's be quiet. So we're continuing to talk about present bias preferences, and what we've started to see is that there are a couple of different things that happen when people have present bias preferences, depending upon whether they have rational expectations or not. So we've seen that present bias preferences generate self-control problems of one kind or another. People procrastinate things they don't want to do. They pre-appropriate, that is to say, do too soon things that they do want to do. That's the present bias effect. And then we're going to see differences, predictable differences in behavior, driven by whether or not people with present bias preferences have rational expectations or not. That's to say, whether they are sophisticated or naive with respect to their present bias. So what we're going to look for is we're going to look for evidence of misprediction of self-control problems, and we're going to look for evidence of demand for commitment devices. Okay? So let's do it. How could we tell? Observationally. And it's going to turn out that there's a pretty convenient way to identify naifs and sophisticates. And here's how I want to motivate this thing. So let's go back to the problem set question. Okay? This was our table of utilities. Now let me just pause here for a moment because those people in the 6th row, they're still being bad. So you just did a problem set and it had a big old game tree in it. And I know that a minimum of 1/3 of you found that annoying because Tarso told me that that was not his student's favorite way of doing things, and he had an alternative way. Now, there are lots of ways that you can set up a problem that involves sophisticates making a decision about when to do something, or naifs making a decision when to do something. I care about exactly one thing, which is that choices be made according to a utility function, and predictions about future choices be made according to a predicted utility function. Okay? And as long as you understand what people's preferences are at any given point in time, what they believe their future preferences will be at any given point in time, and you can use their predictions to correctly sort of rule out, in the case of the sophisticate, rule out unfeasible courses of action, I don't care how you do it. You will. So when we set up a game tree, then I can look at that and I can say, oh, you've all learned a little bit of game theory. You know about subgame perfect equilibrium. You know about backwards induction. If people foresee what their future self will do, they have to work from the back of the game tree, figure out their choices in the last period, etc. If you do it in a way that does not involve a game tree, you will still be using backwards induction. Because backwards induction simply means you have to look at your future self and see what they will do before you decide what to do in the current period. That is the definition of backwards induction. You puzzle things out, induce, and you do inductive reasoning starting from the end of the time period or the time horizon forwards, backwards. So how you set that up, I don't care, as long as you do the math right and understand the concepts. There are situations in which this sort of table of utilities is the most straightforward. There are situations in which a game tree is most straightforward. So here's one where I think the table of utilities is helpful, and if other people have other ways, that's fine too. All right. So here's the deal. Let's think about the naif first, okay? What does the naif do? Ex ante, that's to say from time period 0, which was Friday, right? This is the Friday, you can do the problems at Friday, Saturday, Sunday. These are the rankings, and the naif says, oh, I'll do it on Saturday, right? Because the preference, the least costly in terms of, from the perspective of Friday, when everything except Friday is discounted, Saturday looks like the best deal, feels like the best deal. So the naif predicts that they will do it in period 1, but then they actually do it in period 2, right? So there's a misprediction, okay? Now, the sophisticate would never do that. The sophisticate would never mispredict her future behavior. Why? Because she has prediction is another word for, so if you predict something correctly, it means that your expectations for that thing are correct, and if your expectations are correct, it's because that's the definition of rational expectations. So a sophisticate has rational expectations. That's sort of the definition of a sophisticate, is that she has rational expectations about her future preferences. Well, if she knows her future preferences, she can figure out her future choices, right? Because her choices are just driven by maximizing her preferences. So because she has rational expectations, that is to say she predicts correctly, she's not going to mispredict. It's kind of a tautology, okay? So if we observe misprediction of future behavior, then that indicates naivete, okay? So we can go out into the world looking for situations in which we see people making predictions, and then if they're predicting, misprediction could just be random error. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about systematically mispredicting in one way or the other. All right. Meanwhile, what does the sophisticate do? The sophisticate looks at this deal and says, yes, I would prefer to do it on Saturday, but looking forward, I can see that I won't do it on Saturday, because from the perspective of Saturday, it's preferable to do it on Sunday. So I'm going to rule out period 1, right? And I'm going to go ahead and do it on Friday. Okay? Now, the sophisticate does it early as a way to sort of preemptively cut off the worst outcome, which is to do it on Sunday. So in some sense, you could say that she's creating a kind of sort of self-generated commitment device, right? I'm going to get it over with. But what she'd really like is to find some way to commit herself to do it in period 1 on Saturday night, right? So if she could find some device, some mechanism, some way of saying, I'm going to do it on Saturday, and then sort of either forcing herself or somehow causing herself to do it on Saturday, she would like that. And she would be potentially willing to pay money for it, okay? So that we would call that a commitment device. We're using that term slightly loosely. I'll talk about that in a minute. If we see that, then we know we have an indication that that people are at least somewhat sophisticated, at least somewhat foresee their future present bias problems. A naif would never do that, right? Again, not quite by definition, but I mean, by definition, what a naif believes is that their future selves will be time consistent, right? Beta equal to 1 gets us right back to the exponential discounting model. The naif believes that their future selves will have time consistent preferences, which is to say, the definition of time consistent is that they believe their future selves will follow through on the plan. Well, if you believe that your future selves will follow through on the plan, you would never want a commitment device. Okay? Good? So now we have a sort of a rubric, a kind of like a, the sort of tree finders. If the tree, does the tree have alternating leaves, or and so here we like, do people mispredict? If yes, they're probably naive. If not, we don't really know. Do they demand commitment devices? Yes. Well, if they do, then they're sophisticates. If they don't, we don't really know, right? Because if you don't demand a commitment device, it could be because you're naive and don't think you need one, or it could be because it's just not worth it to you. You could be sophisticated and just not think you need, not actually need one, or not be willing to pay for it. Okay, what's that doing here? Clicker question. Assuming as usual Well, actually, we don't have to assume this utility function because these things, oh yeah, we do. Assume that that utility is linear in money. So in other words, $1 is worth a euro. How much will the sophisticate pay for a commitment device at t equals 0 that will force her to do the problem set at t equals 1? So how much would she pay on Friday when she really prefers to do it on Saturday for some mechanism that will force her to do it on Saturday? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See what you guys said. Okay. Oh, wow, that's an interesting distribution. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. Let's see. Why don't we just go with the modal choice, which is A. Who said A? Would like to explain this? Yes, Andrew.
I just thought you got to pay until your work's off.
Yeah. Or indifferent.
Yeah. So if you pay more than 1/4, then all of a sudden that 3/4 is like more than 1. So you're really not there.
Okay. So point me towards the 3/4 and the 1. So there's the 3/4. So that's what you want to get, right?
So if I'm paying T, I feel like all of my stuff goes up. Living things and raise all those other activities.
Sure. So which thing are you comparing this to? You said compared to 1. Where did you get the 1?
Oh, the 1 is like at T equals 0 if I do it right now.
Okay. So you're saying if without the commitment device, she's going to do it at t equals 0, and from the perspective of t equals 0, that's worth 1.
Well, because if you didn't pay, it's like 1 to do it right now.
Right. That's a cost of 1. These are all costs.
So if I paid, I want tomorrow to be no more than 1, or else why did I just pay at the same utility as I would have by not paying to it?
I'm not sure I follow you.
Like, if I paid over a quarter.
Right, but let's get at why it's a quarter. The reason it's a quarter is because if you can commit yourself to Saturday, you're going to pick up a quarter of a util worth of, right? You're going to pick up 25 cents worth of utility.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're willing to pay up to 25 cents.
Yeah, if I go over, then that's 3/4.
Yeah, then you've blown it. That's like paying too much for a pack of chewing gum. Nobody would do that.
I don't think that's that yet.
Exactly. So, does anybody who got a different answer feel that their answer, that they can defend their answer on some other ground, some other logic? Yeah.
I think it might be because looking forward, the sophisticate thinks that they're going to end up paying 5 or 4. So they would pay up to 50 cents to commit themselves to the cost of it.
So you're saying looking forward, she thinks she'll wind up doing it on Sunday. But when, we've already figured out, when will she actually do it without a commitment device?
Sunday is due Sunday.
It is, but the thing is that, as Andrew pointed out, she'll actually do it on Friday because she realizes that she wants to do it on Saturday. She realizes that if she waits, she'll do it on Sunday. So she goes ahead and does it on Friday. But she's sitting there going, look, I want to let myself be tempted one night. I'm tempted right now. I want to succumb to that temptation. I want to do it on the second best night. If I had a commitment device that would allow me to do that, I would pick up this quarter of a util because I'd be going from a cost of 1 here to a cost of 3/4 there. And if she has to pay on Friday, that's not discounted. That's a quarter of a dollar. I don't know why I put it in fractions. 25 cents is the answer. Whether or not you could get someone to commit you, I don't know if you could do that for 25 cents, but that's the answer. Any questions about how we got there? So you just look at what she would get without the commitment device, you look at what she would get with the commitment device, which is to say her favorite plan. Look at the difference between the two. And then there are situations in which she might have to pay for the commitment device in the future, in which case you need to discount that payment. But by and large, we'll be talking about situations where she pays for the commitment device right away. Fine. Okay. So now we know how to identify naïfs and sophisticates in the real world. This is not easy, by the way. Catching people red-handed in the act of mispredicting their future choices is not easy. And demand for commitment devices is a little bit easier because commitment devices do in fact exist, right? The fact that people choose retirement accounts where their ability to withdraw money is restricted, that's evidence of a commitment device, right? Anybody here actually got one of these little puppies? It isn't, because there's also a massive tax benefit. So that isn't actually evidence of a demand for commitment, okay? But it's possible to identify demand for commitment a little bit more easily than misprediction. All right, so there's our rule. Use of commitment devices indicates sophistication. So we'll see some of this stuff in the future. Savers who prefer an account with restrictions on withdrawals. We'll actually see a clean experimental result on that on Thursday. Students who prefer to be given unnecessary deadlines, we're going to talk about that at the end of this class. Online gamers who choose to commit themselves ex ante to a maximum length of game time are probably sophisticated. Possibly not. That's complicated. I go back and forth with myself on whether to actually talk about this because this is a piece of research I'm actually not done with, but I like it so much that I always want to tell people about it. Meanwhile, misprediction of future behavior indicates naivete. So gym members who predict that they will attend several times a week but then don't, or online gamers who do not bind themselves ex ante to a certain number of games, but who then use a device that I refer to as a one more game button to help them stop. So in other words, going in, I didn't think I would need help playing my optimal number of games, but then I find myself in that miserable condition called the one more game phenomenon, right, which is sort of like Skinner's rat pushing the button for food until they die of whatever. Actually, it was cocaine. Was it monkeys and cocaine or rats and cocaine? There's some study where this animal was given a button and every time they pushed it, they would get cocaine. And they just sat there pushing it until they died of an overdose. So that's online games, right? That's computer games. So if you go into a session thinking, oh, I'm going to play for half an hour and then I'm going to stop, and then you get to 45 minutes, and then you get to 2 hours, and you're sitting there going, I'm playing Minesweeper over and over again. And every time I hit the next game button, I'm telling myself I'll stop after one more. Well, if I give you a button that makes you stop after one more, maybe the fact that you chose that but didn't bind yourself in the first place suggests that maybe you're partially naive, right? That you think you won't need the self-control device, but then later you do. What I would point out, again, I sort of said this is misprediction. Neither of these things is actually, we can't actually observe people making the prediction. I'm saying that misprediction due to naivete could be causing those outcomes, but we can't actually observe people's predictions in that situation. It's harder to observe predictions. So hold the line on that one. Now, as usual, of course, the answer matters a lot. As usual with questions of rationality, right? This is an issue of whether you have rational expectations. It matters a lot. In positive terms, right? Different assumptions about rationality are going to cause us to make different predictions about people's behavior. If I have a savings account and I have a population of people who I think have a hard time saving because of self-control problems, it matters a very great deal. If I create a special savings account that functions as a commitment device, which people do, it matters a very great deal in terms of my predictions of how well this instrument will work, whether or not these people are sophisticated or naive. Because if they're naive, it's not going to work at all. And if they're sophisticated, it will work. So it's really important to know. And then if I believe that they're naive, I'm going to predict something else. I'm going to say, well, a voluntary commitment type savings account is not going to be helpful, but maybe I can come up with some other kind of way of getting these people to save. And there's this cool new thing, I don't know if any of you have come across this, that there are various places in which there are these accounts where every time you put in $25, you get a little lottery ticket. Right? So it's actually creating an incentive for people to save, which is overcoming self-control problems in a different way. And so we have two different general tools for helping people overcome self-control devices, and which one we should use depends a lot on whether people are sophisticated or naive. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And then, of course, it matters for normative purposes because we're going to get different welfare analysis depending on whether or not we think that people are naive or sophisticated. And you won't be surprised to hear me say that, in fact, what's going to happen is whether or not people are naive or sophisticated, our ability to do welfare analysis, normative analysis, to put a value on different outcomes is, of course, going to just kind of become confused and sloppy. We're not really going to know quite what we're talking about, just like with reference-dependent preferences.
But this is a bit of a but with naive and sophisticated people, is it just like equally distributed amongst population, or is it like each part, like we are all sophisticated, or we are all naive, or is it just
What do you think?
age, for example? Is it just
Well, if it's a product of age, I wouldn't know about it yet. No, sorry. Not because I'm not old, but because I haven't learned anything. What's your answer?
I think it'd be bad. I don't know.
Yeah, so just...
Maybe a product of experience.
Okay, so let me just say a couple things about that really quick. It is an aside. I think it's a very interesting aside. So the question is the situation that there are some people are naive, some people are sophisticated, or are we all sometimes sophisticated, sometimes naive? Okay? Do you play computer games ever? Have you experienced the one more game phenomenon? So you learned about the one more game phenomenon in yourself some time ago. Okay? So you've learned. You're relatively sophisticated with respect to that. When was the last time you experienced the one more game phenomenon? How the hell have you not learned? Right? Because here's what the one more game phenomenon is, literally, and you can't escape from this interpretation. Okay? I don't think this is debatable. How long is the game that you play? How long does it take? 2 minutes. Okay? So every 2 minutes, you tell yourself, with sufficient condition to cash in 2 minutes of sleep, that you're going to be sophisticated, that you're going to be time consistent in 2 minutes. Okay? That's an extremely high degree of naivete. Okay? And you do it game after game after game, right? So if you play for an hour, that's 30 times that you've told yourself that you're time consistent, that you'll be time consistent in 2 minutes, and then discovered 2 minutes later that you're not. Okay? I of course never do this. The reason I don't do this is because I'm in the category. I can't play computer. I have such a self-control problem that I just wouldn't be able to hold down a job if I allowed myself to. But the trick is to play games that kind of suck. Yeah. If you're going to keep snacking in your car, make it something you don't like very much. Okay, so what is the point of all that? We're all naive. We're all sophisticated. We all have reference-dependent preferences. Sometimes the reference point is the status quo. Sometimes it's expectation. Sometimes it's some social comparison. Sometimes it switches immediately, right? You're sitting there watching, I don't know, Desperate Housewives, and your reference point is really low, and then you switch on something else like Friends, and all of a sudden it goes way up. Who knows, right? You're talking about reality. We're talking about economic models. There's some slop between the two. But it's a good question. It matters a lot. It matters in the same way that when you're modeling human behavior, it always matters whether your model is a good approximation of reality or not. And you have that. There's no hard and fast rule. You just have to understand reality well enough to be able to say, this is a situation in which I'm pretty confident the reference point is a social comparison. So I'm going to go with that. Right? This is a situation in which I'm pretty sure people are sophisticated. So I'm going to go with that. Yeah. Anybody? Okay. All right. So on your own. Suppose that you have a client who is opening a health club, by which I mean like a 24-hour gym. Your client wants to know what kind of membership contract should she offer. We've talked about this a little bit already. What advice would you give her? Charge a flat fee per visit. Charge people a monthly fee with unlimited free visits, charge a higher monthly fee than that, but then actually provide a financial reward for each visit. Maybe B and C both or no answer. What would be your professional advice?
Is she maximizing profit or utility to humanity?
Alex, that's a very silly question. You ever been to 24-hour fitness? If consumers are rational, they're the same thing. That's the right answer. If consumers are rational, they're the same thing. That's the whole point about markets, is that we think that they align private incentives with social welfare.
I'm more assuming she knows people are sheep and she's going to do what's best for them even though they wouldn't choose themselves.
Okay, let's say that your client is a man. Okay, does that clarify things? He doesn't care about other people. Okay, good. Fine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so what did you guys say? All right, B, a monthly fee with unlimited visits is overwhelmingly the preferred answer. I would like to hear from someone who said C. Andrew.
I feel like marketing-wise, people are dumber, and they're going to be like, I get a reward for knowing I'm going to do that, and they'll go.
So you're using the word dumber, I assume, as a colloquial synonym for the word naive. Yeah. Okay, so they're going to say, wow, I'm really going to go, sure, I'll pay extra because I'm going to make it all back on this incentive that you're going to give me. Yeah.
I think with C, you can assume that even though some people come from a financial reward, it's probably going to be distributed to people who do something different, and hopefully they'll probably end up with a high point of view.
Okay, it's an empirical question. Some people are going to, like time-consistent people might make out on this like bandits. I was going to come anyway. Question here. Right. Yeah. I mean, if it was me, I would go with B and C, but that's only because I've done the piece of research that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. You looked ahead. Yeah. No. Why not mix it up? You should probably offer them all an orange as well. Diversify. Okay. So let's see if we can find some evidence of misprediction in the world. We've seen the study already. Delavigne and Malmondier studied gym goers' behavior. So this is exactly what we just talked about. 2 payment options. There was the monthly fee for $70 for unlimited use, pay per visit of $10. Most gym goers chose the monthly contract. Most of them went 4.3 visits a month, which is $17 per visit, way more than the per visit fee. This looks an awfully lot